I was thinking I should arrive early to the parade, just to make sure I was in the right place at the right time. And I was early. Right on time to see the whole thing play out. The San Antonio parade happens once every year in Lisbon. This is my first time attending it, and the first time shooting an event like this. 20 districts of Lisbon compete for the best show in town. Everyone carrying the pride of their neighborhood on their shoulders. And as Lisboners are known to be proud fellows, they all mean business. And they have been preparing for months now. No one spared any detail to win. One after another the groups arrive and check each other out as they pass. They know that they must be at their best to win, and they rally their spirits up accordingly. It's a game of popularity, and no one backs down. This is a perfect playground for a street photographer. People expect to be photographed. They almost demand it. I follow the call. There's nothing like the feeling of being in the right place at the right time. And even in events like this, you can get surprised. This is what it's all about. There are plenty of kisses in the history of street photography, but the sidekicks often get forgotten. And this was the idea that most struck me as I carried along shooting through the night. How these scenes won't appear in the television. And what a shame that is. How often can the behind the scenes be more interesting than the main events? With more drama and more emotion. The stories of those moments before walking in on stage, and of those people that most waited to see the show. This is a tradition that started 100 years ago, and it has become a familiar affair. All the 20 groups will parade down the Avenida da Liberdade, and people have come to mark their spot in the first row. Some have waited for hours. And as the show progresses down the street, people start making their judgments. I go along the parade down the long street, where people have stands to sit and watch the routines. Making people curious as they wait and look, and giving me an opportunity to observe them. This is one of the longest streets in the city. There have been amenities set up all along, and throughout, the first row is already taken. So I proceeded to explore the back and take advantage of the interesting scenes I found there. The light beams shooting across the street create some good opportunities. And so I stay here for a while, exploring these scenes under the spotlight, trying to find little stories to focus on, and look into those moments no one else will register, because they are often deemed as not interesting. So must the street photographer come in to show that assumption is wrong, and to discover main characters where they seem to be none. People keep arriving, crowding the area even more, and I look for different points of view. The night is starting to set, and the show of lights is hard to miss. This is the main stage, where the show is being televised, and it's the ultimate test to the competition. From there the parade keeps going down, and this signals the real beginning of the show. At this point it becomes impossible to get a good view, so I keep exploring the stream of people as they pass by. I was trying to include as many characters as I could in the frame, and this is an interesting mix for one shot. I move along down the road. It's fun to see people trying to get a vantage point, as they will use what they can. As it becomes increasingly harder to find a way to get a glimpse at the groups as they pass by. It also makes for an easy picture when people are still. And as the next group arrives, I try to see how I can get myself a view as well. I notice a little hack, and I'm in. It's nice to see the performance for a bit. And a fun exercise to try and get a good shot. The atmosphere here is electric. Something that hopefully inspires future generations to keep embracing their culture. I feel now like I need to get some shots of the groups again. Watching from afar is not that much fun. So I go back up the street, where there are still plenty of performances getting ready, and I get a better view. These costumes at night are even more striking, and it all feels like a fever dream at this point. You can see the performers are feeding off themselves out of the big moment. As their time approaches, the anxiety to enter the stage builds their energy up. And a certain vulnerability comes to the surface. That place in time that brings the best in you to arise. I'm interested in trying to capture these emotions people are feeling at such a great pressure event. To capture their insecurities, their fears, and the ways in which different people deal with them in different manners. I feel like this is the freedom of a street photographer, that he can turn his focus from a moment of tension to one of beauty in the space of a second. As in life, those two walk side by side, and it's that complexity that makes it special. We are just being led by the flow of events, and the picture is its own story. Life will push forward into something else, and we will follow along with it. But the main thing to know about the Sant Antonio festivities is that the parade is just a cherry on top of the whole cake. As all around the city and the country, the party takes to the streets in full force, and people grab the opportunity to finally let loose. The main idea is to embrace our simpler selves, remember when we were kids, and eat as much barbecue as is humanly possible. Not an easy order to fulfill, I can assure you. These pop-up restaurants are set up all over the place, and they turn many public areas into full-blown food markets. It's not business for the faint-hearted. It's rather one for the veterans, who have been in this game for years. Everyone is trying to have the biggest barbecue, and nothing here is too much. It's all part of the celebration. It's a whole country bringing out their most popular side to the surface. And that is where the magic lies. But this is just a little corner in the grand scheme of things. And the real party is somewhere else. I go up the hill in the direction of the heart of the nightlife, stopping at any interesting scene to visit another little party, this time in a more touristy area, but still just another example of the same concept. I look for the opportunities here, and was drawn by the light in this churro stand. As people in Portugal tend to have dinner quite late, at this time the streets are still somewhat calm here. But I'm not in a rush either. It's nice to breathe a little outside of the mayhem of the great events. And I found this little street scene, where the potential for a layered image was screaming at me. I'm headed to one of the most famous neighborhoods in the city, Bica, where the real party has already started, and the whole streets have become concert venues. Sometimes it is hard to understand how something like this has developed over time. How your typical historic streets suddenly became all-out clubs. But then the key to putting that together is right at the door of the owners' houses, who open up as pop-up bars and use this opportunity to profit on the visitors. Here in Bica, the party is lively though. The whole surreal aspect seems to make people even more delighted, as the locals observe their front yards taken over. The party only gets crazier. And they end up being the most interesting subjects. They are still happy at this point, and the atmosphere is quite beautiful. This was not an easy place to take pictures. And I have somewhere else in mind. I'm going to the neighborhood of Alfama, the oldest part of the city, and in the end the most surreal. The streets are even smaller here, and people use every space they can get to set up their own party. It felt like a good place to park for a bit, so I began hunting around for any interesting subjects. Shooting in a crowd is its own genre of photography. And especially if the party is this agitated. People keep coming in, and the train is running at full speed. This is a fascinating environment to take pictures. And even when standing still, the scene keeps changing. You just have to pay close attention to your surroundings and try to find those inner layers underneath the obvious scene. Like the point of view of a kid in a situation like this. Every single person is processing the moment in a specific way. You can easily tell the more extroverts running the party from those introverts who are doing it more low-key. They all seem interesting to me. I start to understand that this party was actually put together by one big family who is sponsoring the whole entertainment. And they were having a good time. But Alfama is a big neighborhood, and there's much to explore in a night like this. The streets have been lined up with food stalls and bars, and every setup has its charms. The smell of sardines and pork belly rises from the barbecues all around the place, and as people enjoy the whole atmosphere, I try to find the most interesting scene to invest some time in. The chaotic mix of colors and textures made this one my favorite. And this one lady by herself in her beautiful stall. This was not her first time. The party takes no breaks as you keep progressing along. It only gets more surreal. The more you advance, every restaurant has become a street vendor. And there is plenty of business for everyone here. After all, it's much harder to resist when it's all happening in front of you. I can't help to feel there is something beautiful about these little improvised counter sellers. Maybe it's that touch of Wild West it has, that is reminiscent of days gone by, when the world was a simpler place, and it was yours to conquer. When bureaucracy had not taken over our lives and made us all follow in line with safety measures. I think that might be the real appeal of this particular party. Right at the beginning of summer, when for a long time now societies have made the point to let loose, and for a short period of time exist like there is no responsibilities ahead. I force my way through the winding streets, sometimes even losing track of where I am in the midst of this jolly hell. And I look for good light, where I can see into people's faces, trying to make sense of my surroundings, stopping to record any moment that shows up, to try and demonstrate the crazy scenes I'm witnessing. But in the end, I'm also just another local, and there are some classics you must stop to enjoy.
Estava sempre